This one is owned by Jeff Knutson out of Fargo and resides here on the showgrounds all the time. The next engine, the other return crew we have with us this weekend. This is an 1899, 22 horse Minneapolis return crew compound. When I say compound, it has 2 cylinders back to back and it uses the steam twice. This engine was reboilered and rebuilt several years back, and it's just a great running example of early Minneapolis return crew. This is another rare engine. There's only 2 of these left in existence today, and this is the only operating Minneapolis 22-horse return crew compound. Behind them you can see a water wagon. When they go on thrashing runs, they take the water wagon to take fuel and water along during the run so they would have water, especially in areas where water wasn't close. The next engine is a 22-horse Minneapolis direct flue. It was built in 1906. This is owned by Lyle and Andrew Austin. And Lyle bought this engine when he was 15, back in 1957. It's a great running engine and an example of an early engine. If you look at these engines when you're up there, on my side, the announcer side, you can see Roman numerals up in the cylinder casting. All the early pre-1916 engines will have that. So if you walk up and look at those, you will find Roman numerals. That's XXII for 22 horse. As you see these engines also, you can see a variety of pin strengths. And one of the things is we've done a lot of restorations in Minneapolis, and wondered why that was. There's a gentleman here, Harold Parker, who has a wealth of knowledge in Minneapolis history and has done a lot of research. And what they found was Minneapolis, there was an art school not far from the factory, and they would hire some of the students going to school there to come in and pinstripe their engines, and they would let them take some of their own artist will on these engines and determine what the pinstriping is. So even when you get down to original paint, original pinstriping, they don't all match because multiple people were doing them. Here we have an engine. This is owned by Jesse Young. It comes up from the cities. It's a 24-horse Minneapolis built in 1916. So this engine is 100 years old this year. It is the first year we talked about the transition that they made a lot of changes, and that was 1916. And this would be the first year of the transition when they went from the old style engines with Roman numerals up on the cylinder castings to the later ones. They made some boiler design changes, some engine changes. Quite a few things happened in that transition. This next section comment is the 1921 Minneapolis. This one is owned by Byron and Dale Noel, and this comes from Bangor, Wisconsin. This engine was actually a Dale's family. It got sold out of the family many years back, and about 4 years ago he was able to purchase this engine back, did a full restoration on it, and really finished it up to come to the show out here. So this is pretty much fresh out of the shop for the Minneapolis Expo out here. You know, as we start talking about these engines, and you'll see as they keep coming, you will see a lot of engines, and especially big engines. 24s, 28s, a lot of those that have been preserved. One of the reasons we have a lot of these bigger engines left in the nation and in the Midwest was the sawmill industry. A lot of these engines got put into sawmills and used for power in the sawmill because your fuel was free. You saw, you'd have your slab wood, you burn the slab wood to run the steam engine, so it was really free power. So these survived, many of these in sawmills, and today did not get scrapped during World War II. You'll also find engines that have been partially scrapped during World War II. They were in a sawmill to have the war effort. They would pull the rear wheel. Anything they did not need the power of the sawmill, they would take off. Rear wheels would get taken off, rear wheel casting, all of that stuff would be stripped off the boilers. The boilers would be set there stationary and used for sawmill power. This next engine is 1924, 24-horse Minneapolis. This is owned by Gene Zoffy and comes up from out in the cities. These engines, some engines, one of the questions I was asked is why do some engines have rubber over the tires, some have steel lugs. That really, as owners, preference. Gene lives in an area where he wants to be able to move it on harder ground, because if you run this on blacktop, it leaves really nice marks in the blacktop, but the city doesn't really care for that. No, they don't care for it at all. So this is the last production year. We talked about the last year of production. This engine is from the 1924, one of the last group of 24s to be built. Next engine coming up the hill. We talked about the beautiful restoration. This one is what we call an flirt project. And there's several engines out there like this. This is becoming more popular. This engine has been untouched since it left the factory in 1950. This is a 25-horse Minneapolis, and this is the third to last 25-horse to be made by the Minneapolis Thrashing Machine Company. What you see coming up the hill is, I could say, the way it left the factory. It's got a few years of wear, about 101 years worth of wear on it, but all original of pinstriping, what paint is left is original on this engine, and it's just a great piece to show how these engines weathered and wore over the years. Some sat out for many years, some were shedded, but the life of a steam engine, especially from a paint standpoint, was pretty tough. They painted these engines to keep them from rusting and preserve them. It wasn't to make them look showroom beautiful. This engine is owned by Dale Haloney out of northern Wisconsin and resides here on the grounds. So that's a 25, and those were the forerunner to the 24 horse. So we've seen the 24s come on that were built after 1916, all of them. All the 25s were built prior to 1916, and when they re-rated it, they took the 25 and actually got rated as the 24 and renumbered it as 24. Next coming up is our line of 28. This is a 28 Canadian, and I'll do a little explaining what Canadian means in a minute. This was built in 1916. It's the oldest 28 we have on the grounds. These are all post-1916 engines. Once again, an engine that is over 100 years old. This engine is owned by the Dean Last Pioneer Farm, and is an engine that you will find in the sawmills around here on the showgrounds running a lot. Now, as we talk about the Canadians, the first two 28 Minneapolises, they made two different styles. They made the Canadian and the American. This is a Canadian. As it goes by, look at the rear wheels. These wheels will be 4 inches wider than the Americans we see go by. They got a reinforcing ring in them. They got a different steam stop valve up in the middle. Are the big things. And then they did some boiler mods that the Canadian provinces wanted that we did not have here in the US. So they actually the next engine coming is 16 serial numbers after that engine. So these two engines sat at some point in their life on the assembly floor together being built. They both came out of the same batch of 28 Canadians that were built. This one is owned by Mark and Teresa Harstead out of the state of Minnesota here. It's a beautiful running 28 Canadian, and some of the things I talked about you'll see on this engine as it comes by, the heavier rear wheels, and you'll see an American in a little bit. What saved this engine, probably the most unique thing you can find, is this engine ran in a sawmill until 1968 in Bluegrass, Minnesota. So we talk about the end of the steam era. Jim talked that engines are really, the majority of them were done being sold by 1924, 25. However, many of them stayed and were used in that sawmill industry for many years. When you see these engines, one of the other things you'll find is that there's head tanks on them. And you can see the head tank, and right now the one engine we have without a head tank is actually in a sawmill. But this engine has a head tank, and that would be water, and then there's a water tank on the back of the engine. So when they would go out, they would have plenty of water when they were out thrashing. Now if you look at the math up there, you put that water tank with about 100 gallons of water in there at 8 pounds a gallon. there's about 800 pounds sitting up in front of that axle. You will find some engines where they actually remove that water tank on smaller farms, makes the engine easier to steer. You put all that water on that front tank, it gets very difficult to steer. And when you see the big 4.5 coming up the hill with the size of that water tank, I will guarantee you that water tank is empty today. They're not filling it to get around the showground because it is really tough to move that engine around with the front head face full. Here is a 28 horse American. This is a 1919. This is owned by Jim Nasmith. Brought it in for the show this year out of Minnesota. Now we had talked about the 28s and the difference. Now if you look at this engine, you look closely, the rear wheels are a little narrower. They don't have the reinforcing ring. And you can see the stop valve up here on Jim's really nice because it doesn't have a canopy. You can see it's got a stop valve that comes straight out of the dome rather than the Canadians had an inline, which they required. So there's a few minor differences on these engines, but overall pretty much the same engines, a lot of interchangeable castings, but they did sell a Canadian line and American, and here's a fine example of the American line they sold. Next is a another rare engine. This is a 30-horse Minneapolis double. This was built in 1911 and is owned by the North Dakota Thrashing Association. They sent this out here for it. This is one of two 30-horse doubles up running today. Probably the most interesting thing is these were made for plowing and heavy field work. This actually has, if you see, there's a shaft that goes all the way through the center of the boiler. This is a double-geared double engine. So the counter shaft comes through the center of the boiler, transmits it from the far side away from me through the boiler to the differential on this side of the engine. So if you get up to the expo area, look at that, because that shaft is a solid shaft running through the center of the boiler. A unique feature that they only put on their large engines. Last but certainly not least, this is the largest Minneapolis we have on the showgrounds and one of the largest built. This is a 1907 45-horse Minneapolis single tandem monopod. This was put back together several years ago by the late Richard Rollag from Parts Pile, and it's just a beautiful example. They would use these out in the Dakotas for breaking the prairie, out plowing, and they made this. There was 7 of these made. They made 35 doubles of this size, and then several 35 singles. So stop up and check out these engines. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to hand it back over to Jim.
Okay, now here the steam engines that went through, the Minneapolis line of steam engines that went through. Now we're into the prairie tractors. These are the large prairie tractors. They were actually manufactured about the same time, same era. All steam came first and then in the 1900s, late 1900s, like you'll see here now. These are gas tractors. Gas ended up winning out because you could at that time buy a gallon of gas 6 cents a gallon. You put 255 gallon barrels on a trailer and get out to the thrashing field and pour gas in them, and away you go. Really no one that had to, you didn't have to tend with hauling water and wood and all that there. That's how the gas ended up winning. Okay, this tractor here, we're going to see if we get some names on it, connections to it. Built by the Minneapolis Thrashing Company. I think we got some information out of there. Mike Smazzo owns this tractor. It's a 1919 Minneapolis 3570, mean 35 drawbar, 70 on the belt. Sandania, Missouri is from. Bill Forrester is the driver. And this one here, yeah, Mike Smazzo, the owner. And this one here now is owned by the 60, and this is owned by Mark Peterson from Laverne, North Dakota. We got our show president standing on the side here with the red hat on. And we got, now this is the largest production gas tractor built in this era. It's a 1919-60 90. And here we got the 4065, and that's a Twin City in 1916. Mark Peters from Laverne, North Dakota. Oh, and we got Glenn Westfall operating it. Westfall, that's was the Jennifer Effort Ranch in Ryder, North Dakota. There we got Little Les Pauls, 3570 Minneapolis 1915 model. From Minneapolis, Minnesota. Sort of G's here. It's got a G on the front, the GB. It's running on propane. A lot of these farmers did this to get like a four-wheel drive before four-wheel drive production actually came out. We got a UBE here on my side. It's got the extendable factory-wide front. They started that in 1953. We got a 1920 Minneapolis 2244 here. It's got the cross motor in it and the cross radiator. It's owned by John Paisley and Glenn Orwick, and Kevin and Benjamin Ross are driving that. We got a J Minneapolis here. They started building them in 1934. After Minneapolis took over 29, this is the first one that had M&M and the Twin Cities name both on the front. Got a G708 here, front wheel assist. Minneapolis is one of the first tractor companies to promote front wheel assist. And three sons and two daughters are here with their families to drive Clayton tractors too, and that's the ones coming through here, like the G706 is 1000, double 1000 is owned by Paul Ingleson, one of the sons, but Clayton had gotten this one restored in the first place. And down the line we got more Inglesons here, so I just wanted to put that out. Thank you, Alex, you're doing a good job. A lot of those farmers often use quite a bit of ingenuity. They made these tractors to get the extra horsepower to the ground for pulling big tillage equipment. These here, they even put turbos on them when they made them into tandem. Got a G706 coming here, it's front wheel assist. Like I said, Minneapolis one of the first tractor companies that really pushed that for a while, and it did take quite a while for that to catch on. Followed up by M504. That was just a regular two-wheel drive, being M5. It's got the Elwood front axle under it. They just made a short handful of those. Got a used standard coming up here. It's got the fixed front, that's why they got it standard, and the rear wheels are non-adjustable. Got a 708, another front wheel assist. It's in the Wheatland version. That's the only way that style was made. Got a G8 here. It's universal. It's got the narrow front and two bottom AF plow behind it. Got a nice little ministry here. He was a Minneapolis million dealer in Foreman, North Dakota, and Grandpa's right behind him. Got a ZB with the factory wide front
And S is driven by Alfred Dahl. It's a 1955 model. Thank you for coming, Albert. This Minneapolis lean tractor here is the 1912 2550. It's driven by Kevin Roth. It's owned by John Tiffy and Glenn Orlick. We got a nice little Minneapolis lean early production one here when they start getting into this small tractor. This M5 is the high drop propane. It's driven by Dennis Salvey from Hancock, Minnesota. Dennis has got a nice collection of several really rare tractors. This is Gary Greer driving a Minneapolis lean tractor. This is when they were getting into the smaller ones. And they got away from the big prairie tractors. It's got a cross motor in it also. And they all come out on steel wheels. Got a G707. This is the two-wheel drive version of the prior ones that come through, the 708s. They have a front wheel assist. This is very nice. Okay, we got a 39R here with a cab, owned by Bob Spencer from Eagle, Minnesota. Thank you for bringing that in. Got a nice big VA here. Standard here. On gasoline, they were very popular out in western countries and down toward Kansas and Oklahoma. Got a Minneapolis 445. They started building these down in about mid-50s or so. And he's got his young sons on there with him, teaching them what the freight is all about. Ever got a nice little homemade Reckless painted in the Minneapolis lean colors. Got passengers there and a nice little homemade wagon also. Got a G1000 Vista. They started these in about 68 or 69. It's got the diesel motor in it. You sit up high on the platform, you get controls for hydraulics and stuff are all nice to by your side. It's a very nice handling, driving tractor. Now we got a nice little restored uniformer here. It's got the 760 dealer on. It's owned by Larry Ohe. Built in 1958. Larry is from Rocky, Minnesota. You could have bailers on them, a binder, you could have corn picker, corn shellers, combines on them, so you could own one tractor unit and have a lot of units to go on there. Got a used standard here right in front of me. Yeah. The next one is 1953 GAS, which means it's a standard unit. And if you look at this ZAF, it's followed up by a ZH, you can see quite a bit of difference in these two tractors. Got another nice ZA right here. On the far side, we got a U pulling a 3-bottom plow. It's owned by Edwin Erickson from Minor, South Dakota. Got a UTS right in front of us here. Got a 1949 RTU on the far side, right in his working clothes. The straight clock. This one here is coming up here. It's owned by Dennis and Karen Lewis from Rollag, North Dakota. It was built in the winter of 68 and 69. Dennis and Karen in there. The tractor behind it is a restored tractor by Dennis this winter. It's one that his dad had in the early days started farming. He's got his nephew running it right now. Beautiful restoration of Minneapolis. And there we have some Model BF going through. got a CA over there. He's got that all set up for tractor pulling. Got another CA here. We got a new propane on the far side. And, well, straight. Minnesota. Pretty close. All right, thanks. Got a little Model V here, sold by Minneapolis Lean. Minneapolis got bought off Avery Company in the early 50s. Got a CA, 1950 R. Got nothing that one. Got a little R standard on the far side. And that's owned by Selvin Braden. Got another 445 pulling Minneapolis Lean digger, they call that, for doing field calibrating work. Got a Z standard on the far side. And that's owned by Eric and James Hahn from Albany, Minnesota. GD here with a 6-cylinder diesel in it. Got a new special on the far side. We got the flat plug in. This CA here, they also have the flat plug in there. We got an R on the far side. That's owned by Selvin Brendan. Somebody grandson is driving it. Got an RCI standard right in front of us here. The I stands for an industrial model. We got a C, it's got the chrome fenders on. It's a 1943 model. Got a J here in standard. We got a GB here, it's on propane. That was the next model up from the G. Got a U special here, it's got the flat front, it's got the Wheatland fenders on the back. We got a CAE over there, it's got the factory white front, that means you can adjust it. Got another ZA right here on the inside. Another CAS here, white front on it. Far side, we got a Z, it's got chrome fenders on the back, so it's got to be from about a 1940 to 44 model right in there. One on my side is the Z Universal. It's got chrome fenders on the back as well. We got a U Universal, it's got the narrow front, and they were available in gas, propane, and also in the diesel. Got a 1946 UTU owned by John Knopsel. Got two G1000 discs here. The inside one's got a cab on it, the far one is without. These were a nice tractor. They made a lot of nice improvements. You sit up high. Got a nice platform and really got the controls nice and handy. Got a Whiskey Creek Farm, it's got a DTS standard here, pulling an LS 200 spreader. The G850 they have is a red tractor, it's the same as an Oliver 1955, and it is, no, it's 1855 is what it is. It's a 1971 model that built in 1 year, so pulling a 1720 $20. Blue on the inside is the standard model. Whiskey Creek Farms has also got a ZA. And we got a U standard on the inside here. It's got a nice little chrome pipe on it. Well, thank you, man. It looks like that's the end of Minneapolis. The yellow jacket's going out. Oh, here we got Whiskey Creek Farms and a Dodge pickup. And then we got number 2103 and a E John Deere, and that belongs to David Snell. From Winger, Minnesota, by golly. And here we got the Jeep that's Wmstr or the tandem axle. Jeep that's going through. And here we got Dr. Music, got the driving, it's got logo, John Deere 39 model. And this 3-bottom plow, he said, was actually in the family, and his family was new. And Lucas Jury is driving his John Deere Model G through, And we got the honorary steam train Gloria Erickson riding in the Stanley Steamer. Future steam queen candidate. Well, yes, young, but their future. This guy here comes over with the state of Washington, and he is the propane gas man. He's delivering some over here at Devil's Lake by the lake over there. Brian D. Coffee is his name. Here we got 2156, and that's the model VR. Here we got model 600 keys with the 4-bottom plow behind. Model 600 diesel. And that is a trip back plow, trip beam. Here we got the Ross straddle truck, and that came a long ways and hauling the lumber all the way from Columbus, Missouri. Great job, you guys came a long ways. Here we got the Model A 1946 model, a Model A with the live power, live hydraulics on it. Great job. And that tractor, Model 2 Dr. Coupe is coming through over there. And that is a 19, what year would that thing be? 1926 Dr. Coupe. That's a Dr. Coupe. Moline just walked through. Here we got a Model A John Deere coming through here. It's still got his working clothes on. It's kind of faded out, a little different color. A little different coloration, but it's in his working clothes. Here we got a Model M farm all coming through with the propane attachment. Now that's not factory, I don't think. That's been added on afterwards. Here we got a beautiful international truck coming through, and that'd be a 1-ton, and that would be a B160 with the beautiful head on it. And here we got a car coming through, a sedan. And Scott Rollag coming through the CD9 with dozer, and I think that's got Dakota dozer on that one. Here we come through with our first bumper truck. This is Western Minnesota Stadium Tractors truck. It's the start of maybe we're starting a fire department here on the showground. A Model G850, and it looks like an Osprey driving it. Osprey. Okay, here we got a John Deere with the pump down.